And now, introducing a man who's happier than a pig in crap as today is his favorite day, tacos and virgin margaritas because he doesn't drink. Happy Cinco de Mayo, he is Glenn Clark.
I stand by. Cinco de Mayo is 100 times better than St. Patrick's Day, and nobody's ready for those adult conversations because we've all been indoctrinated into the idea that St. Patrick's Day is the greatest day, or it's the drinking holiday of the year. Cinco de Mayo is phenomenal. Cinco de Mayo is, the food is better, the drinks are better, the music's better, all of it. Cinco de Mayo is the best drinking holiday of the year. I just don't do it anymore. I'm out, and I'm not unavailable tonight anyway.
Can we call it Taco Thursday? Does that count?
Yeah, it doesn't. The alliteration doesn't play.
Not the
it
same.
does not play, no doubt about that. But enjoy whatever you want to enjoy. I don't know why this is hard. Now, this gets into a deeper conversation, and it's not all that dissimilar from St. Patrick's Day about what really Cinco de Mayo is and cultural appropriation and all those things. It's a conversation there's somebody far smarter than I want to make that very clear. Resident dumb guy, Glenn Clark, not the one to have that particular conversation. But big fan in general, big fan of Cinco de Mayo. Miss those days. Loved going out to celebrate Cinco when I was a younger man. And maybe at some point when the kids grow up, I'll get that opportunity again. But for now, I will take it easy. And I got lacrosse tonight anyway. I got Stevenson and Eastern tonight for a spot in the MAC Commonwealth Championship game. It is a Thursday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. Coming up a little bit later on this morning, Weekend at Bookies. We'll bring that to you at 11:40 as we'll get you ready for the weekend in sports betting. We are separating the Kentucky Derby from our betting shows, as I told you earlier on in the week. Unfortunately, in the state of Maryland, you can't go to the casinos and bet the Kentucky Derby, and that's a bummer because you'd love to be able to just spend your day watching hoops, watching hockey, watching the race, betting on it, and then watching the fights at night. But the state of Maryland, understandably, has decided that for now they want you to go to the tracks in order to bet the races. So you can't do it in the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel. And since they're our partner, we're separating Kentucky Derby coverage from our betting shows this week. We had Randy Moss on yesterday if you're looking for some info about the Kentucky Derby. So today we'll talk more about the playoffs, more about baseball, more about the fights, all of that on Weekend at Bookies coming up this morning, 11:40 a.m. We do it every other Thursday and Simply the Bets every Tuesday at 11:40 a.m. Brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. Oh, hello. Later on this hour, former Maryland football coach and UConn football coach Randy Edsall will join us. He'll tell us about the Ravens' third-round pick, Travis Jones. Also later on this morning, one of the greatest players in women's lacrosse history, Taylor Cummings, the former Terp, will check in with us as this summer the Women's Lacrosse World Championships come to Towson University. We're very excited about that. Taylor will tell us more about it. And stuff and things perhaps as well throughout the course of the morning. I spent my evening, I poked a bit at baseball. We'll talk about that in 1 second. I definitely obviously was invested in the Suns game. I actually watched the soccer yesterday afternoon. Woo! Wow, that was something. For those of you that were not paying attention, it was leg 2 of the Champions League semifinals. And Real Madrid needed to score 2 goals. 90 minutes gone by. They were down 1-0, which was more problematic because they were down 5-3 on the aggregate. And the aggregate, of course, is the score of the 2 games combined. So they play 2 legs of these semifinals. Real Madrid down 5-3 with 90 minutes gone by. We're into stoppage time, and all of a sudden, everything changes. I've never seen anything like it. It was wild, man. Wild. As 2 goals were scored in stoppage time. Insane. Absolutely bonkers stoppage time scenario with Real Madrid as they rallied from down 1-0. Rodrigo scoring twice forcing extra time, and then they got a penalty kick in extra time in order to advance. And so it will be Real Madrid and Liverpool in the Champions League final, which is, I think, Memorial Day weekend. If I remember correctly, it's the Saturday of Memorial Day weekend. It used to be a midweek thing, which I always loved. As a college student, oh, man, especially when I was at UMBC and my roommate was on the soccer team and, like, all of his buddies were, like, soccer folks. When it was a midweek event and it was a reason to sort of, like, shut down for the day and just drink and watch Champions League final, that was a time, dude. That was the best. Unfortunately, they moved it the weekend, I want to say about 10 years ago, something along those lines. So it's not quite the same. Of course, wouldn't be the same for me anyway because I'm, believe it or not, no longer in college. But that'll be the Champions League final. That was thrilling. The Suns kind of passive for 3 quarters and then decided to absolutely whoop the Mavericks' asses in the fourth. It was weird.
They shot 64% for the game last night.
Well, they're very good. I mean,
that's insane.
Well, that's part of the. They don't just jack threes. Like they're different than everybody else in the NBA in that they don't. In fact, they were of the playoff teams, not even among the better 3-point shooting teams, because this is not what they do. They take mid-range jumpers. It's this novel concept that nobody. It's almost like with the Ravens who were running the ball. It's the you zig I zag type of deal. Everybody else is just jacking threes. That's all they do. The Mavericks, most certainly, they will. Any path to the Mavericks winning involves them knocking down insane amounts of three-pointers because that's their offense. Their offense is taking threes and then Luka Doncic mixing in, going to the basket every now and then. But that's it. They just shoot threes. And a lot of teams are like that. The Suns figured out this sort of market inequity where they were like, what about a mid-range jumper? You guys heard of that? And, of course, no one more so than Chris Paul, who is the monster of the mid-range, if you will. But they still work it inside to a big. No, it's an old thing that used to exist in basketball where you'd have a large player who would be in the middle, and that large player would use their size and their strength to their advantage. It was a kind of a crazy concept that worked for decades, if not centuries, and then everybody in basketball was like, no, have those guys shoot threes.
Would that be like in baseball, playing small ball and manufacturing runs?
Kinda. It's kind of like that, except it's not quite as obvious because those 7-footers still exist. The guys are still that size. They've just decided to do something. This would be like having Jeff Rebele decide that Embiid is a very good outside shooter. There are plenty, and so they do that. So, It scares me in moments because there was like moments last night where the Mavericks suddenly got hot. They were like knocking down 4 straight threes, and you're like, oh, crap, this could go a different way. They stopped shooting in the fourth quarter, and the Suns couldn't miss. And then on top of it, Devin Booker was hitting everything that he took.
Did I see that they shot 87% in the fourth quarter?
I don't know if that was the number, but I'll believe it. I mean, they didn't miss. It was insane. It was a bat-ass nuts fourth quarter last night. It was one of the most insane things I've ever seen. Now, it's only one game, and the Mavericks haven't had a game at home yet, and so everybody says a series doesn't begin until someone wins a game on the road, so you got to be fair about that. The Suns, all they did was protect home court, and they go up 2-0 in their series. The 76ers still have no life without Joel Embiid. They just have nothing to offer without Joel Embiid, unfortunately. So they've gotten their butts kicked in a couple of games by the Heat. We'll see what happens as that series shifts back to Philadelphia. Right now, they have shown no signs of life so far in the series.
This is totally random, but it's crazy to me that God makes people 7 feet tall and athletic, that they don't just look like baby deer learning to walk. Like I'm standing here 5'7", and we got 7-footers who are hitting threes and running sprints and dunking. It's crazy.
It's definitely nuts, but that's what basketball is nowadays. That's the sport. Even DeAndre Ayton, who's the one guy who plays as a center, you'll even see him sometimes. Like he just wants to be like everybody else. So get the ball and be like, no, I'd rather shoot a 12-foot. You're like, dude, stop. Not your game. Not your game.
Lonnie Baxter at 6'8" was a center in college.
Charles Barkley was 6'3". I mean, like basketball.
Really?
Yeah.
That's insane. I didn't know
basketball's just changed, man. It's just it is an entirely different sport. It's weird, and the Suns are doing a different thing, so it's what it is. That was what happened last. I don't think there was anything else of particular significance that happened last night. If there was, we can talk about it later. I do want to know for you. So we played the game yesterday. We played Would You Rather Wednesday, and we talked about the wide receiver thing specifically with T.Y. Hilton. But I would like from you today, I got a think tank up at Glenn Clark Radio on Twitter. I want to know specifically what it is that you want the Ravens wide receiver room to look like by the time. So this isn't a would you rather, this isn't T.Y. Hilton. I want to know specifically and within the realm of reality. So the answer is not trade for, I was going to say Justin Jefferson. You can't trade for Justin Jefferson. I was like about to say the reality. The problem is the first couple of names I thought of, I'm like, actually, you could trade for that guy. You could trade for Deebo Samuel. You could trade for Terry McLaurin. You're not going to trade for Stephon Diggs, for example. That's not going to be the answer, and you're not going to trade for Justin Jefferson. Within the realm of reality, and be practical about it too, right? So if you say you're trading for Deebo Samuel, understand that you're not getting him for the price that you want to pay. If that price was available, he would have been dealt by now. The 49ers aren't just trading Deebo Samuel for the first person that makes a decent offer. It's pretty clear you got to blow them away in order to acquire Deebo Samuel. So you got to, if you're going to include that in what you want the wide receiver room to look like, you've got to be practical about that. It's going to be a heavy price. McLaurin probably not as heavy a price as Samuel, but still a pretty heavy price because they don't have anything in Washington. That's like about the only player on the roster, and I know they drafted another receiver in Jahan Dotson, but until that's proven to be a thing, this is about the only player they have on the roster that's even decent. So they're also not just going to give him away. So what specifically do you want, and within the realm of reality, do you want the wide receiver room to look like for the Ravens when the season begins? At Glenn Clark Radio on Twitter is how you get in. We'll talk about it as the morning goes on. But let's recap what was an Orioles victory last night. What mattered? Our one-minute man, Paul Valley, tells us now.
All right, so the Orioles win a ball game 9-4 last night. It was the second time since Sunday that they scored 3 runs and 6 runs in back-to-back innings. The bats came out last night against Dylan Bundy, which I kind of talked a little bit about yesterday that could happen. Bundy was having a renaissance season in his first 4 starts, about 2.5 ERA, only 3 walks in those 4 starts. 2 walks last night. He gave up 11 hits, 9 runs. Originally, it was only 7 earned runs, but all 9 of them now earned against Dylan Bundy. Looking like the 2018 version of Bundy last night. Trey Mancini, 3 infield hits last night. You'd be surprised to hear that it's him that got it and not Mullins or Mateo. Kyle Bradish, really good the first 3 innings, gets a 6-0 lead in the 4th inning and completely fell apart. But I don't have an issue with that because it's only a second big league start and you expect him to take some of his lumps here moving forward. But Orioles come out of that game with a 9-4 victory. The bullpen gives up 2 hits, no runs over 5 innings. CNL Perez still sporting a 0 ERA. The bullpen very good. The lineup finally came to life. Hopefully some of that continues.
So a lot of that's just stuff that happened last night. As far as what really matters, Bradish is the question, right? That's the we go back to these big picture concepts with the Orioles this season, and can Kyle Bradish become part of the solution? And no, to your point, you don't overreact to the second start of his big league career or, the first time he had to wait through a long inning, the fact that he got hammered right afterwards. Like, I'm not going to panic about it and suggest that means that Kyle Bradish isn't that guy. But it does go into the pile as far as viewing Kyle Bradish. It is an amount of evidence. It is something that you file away that if Kyle Bradish is going to be part of the solution in any way, I'm not even talking about as being closer to the top of the rotation. I mean, even as a back of the rotation guy long term for this team, he's going to have to be better as far as how he handles long innings. Ideally, if the Orioles are ever going to be good again, there's going to be a few of those. Mm-hmm. Ideally, when we get to that point, when the players are all here, the Orioles score 4, 5, 6 runs a lot in one inning. And if that's the case, the idea of getting cold or getting in your head or whatever it is that people describe about long innings with pitchers, you're going to have to be able to handle that. And again, I get it. It's his second career start. There's nothing that says that he won't be able to handle it. But it's just one thing that we saw that as we look at the big picture with Kyle Bradish, we have to file away. You still see plenty of things about his stuff, and especially before that inning, you saw plenty of things about his stuff that make you say, this kid can do it at the major league level. This kid can be a major league pitcher.
His stuff's really good. His stuff's really good.
Yes, but there have been plenty of pitchers that have arrived in Baltimore whose stuff was really good.
Tanner Scott.
I think this kid's stuff is better than Tanner Scott's, frankly. I mean, Tanner Scott threw the hell out of the ball and had decent stuff beyond that. But, I mean, Bundy, Gausman, Arrieta all had stuff. You could see the pitches they could throw. The talent was evident with all of them when they got here. They just never consistently proved that they could. I mean, Gausman was the closest one for a stretch that was able to show that he could do it, but even it was fleeting, right? Like, it certainly wasn't what we see now. We have seen plenty of guys that had talent arrive in Baltimore. Kyle Bradish has talent. There's no question about that. Going from being a talented pitcher to being a consistent major league pitcher is very difficult to do. It has been seemingly more difficult in Baltimore for a long time. Whether that will continue to be the case or not, to be determined. Ironic that, we were talking yesterday about maybe the wall would help Dylan Bundy, and Cedric Mullins just said, no, just go the other way. Like, that's the hell with the wall. There's this over here. I'll hit the ball over this way, and that'll rock him.
Ramon Arias, just a bomb to dead center. 429-foot home run. It's good to see him finally get off the schneid because his hard hit rate is up from last year. His strikeout rate is down from last year, and he's hitting into some really bad luck.
I just have so little thought that Ramon Arias is a baseball player. Like, I say as a baseball player, I think he's a guy that can be on a major league team. I just have so little thought that Ramon Urias matters.
I doubt that he is a guy who factors into their future. I think the best he can do for himself is make himself a trade chip because there's other guys coming.
Yeah, but even I just think it's a limited. I think it's I just don't think Ramon Urias is somebody that's a difference maker. I think he again to say could you trade him for something? Sure, I think you could. He could make himself somebody that you could trade for something.
Right,
but. There's a cap to that.
It was definitely good to see, though, that it was Dylan Bundy squaring off against the guy that he was traded for last night. One of the guys. He was traded for 4 guys, but Kyle Bradish is the guy who's in the big leagues now. And the Orioles, that Bundy had to be coming out there his first start back in Camden Yards, and he probably has a little extra motivation. And they still shell him.
Yeah, some of that's. I think that The bit that I know about Dylan Bundy, I don't know if uniquely that's something that gets him going. Some guys really are that way. Like, it just they've got something up their ass about it. Like, they want to come back and they want to wreck you and they want to I don't know if Dylan Bundy's that guy. He's just a little bit unique, getting to know him and actually his father a little bit over the years. Like, I just don't know if that's something that was a big deal to him versus Dylan Bundy just wants to prove that he's a quality major league pitcher.
Yeah, and I think overall he is. He's not what we expected him to be, but I mean, he's pitched well through the last 3 years.
I think he's a real major league pitcher. Yeah. I don't know if he's a quality major league pitcher. I don't know that he's an above average major league pitcher. I think he is a proven major league pitcher. He's a guy that deserves to be on a team every year. That's about what I think Dylan Bundy has proven himself to be, and I think that he wants to be more than that, or at least guarantee that he continues to be that. Some of that stuff uniquely, I think the Kyle Bradish side of it is way more important than the Dylan. I don't care who the Twins would have started last night. It's important to see Kyle Bradish right now because, again, this goes back into the margins, the knowns and the unknowns. Well, the knowns, we're using known in quotes because we don't know with certainty that Grayson Rodriguez is going to be a quality major league pitcher, but we feel stronger about it than we do just about anybody that's come along in a very long time. Figuring out if any of these unknowns can move into the known column, can switch over, is the story of the season. That's this season. It's twofold. One, the guys that matter getting here and proving that they belong is the most important thing, right? The most important thing is that when Adley Rutschman arrives in a couple of weeks, he doesn't look lost. That when Grayson Rodriguez eventually gets here, he looks like a guy that can do it. You start to see those signs. The second most important part of the season is figuring out if anyone else from the next column can move into that column. And Kyle Bradish kind of headlines that group. And I still think DL Hall is in that group until proven otherwise. Like, as you could say he's closer to the first group, but there's just been too much gray area with DL Hall for me to confidently put him in the first group. So he's got to prove it. Is he pitching today, by the way? Is the deal?
That's literally what I'm looking. I think he is.
They're playing at 11
Friday.
a.m. They're playing at 11 a.m. today. I believe I remember hearing that he was on the mound today for the Bowie
It would
Bay
make
Sox.
sense because his last start was they usually go 6
Yeah,
starters.
and since Adley DH yesterday, I'm assuming that means he's behind the plate today for that start. Kyle Bradish, whoever he faced last night, was going to be under a microscope, and he's going to be under a microscope every time he pitches because there's reason to think he could be part of the solution. But it's could, and he has to continue to prove that, and last night he didn't. It's okay. Second start, not the end of the world. Clearly, there is reason to believe he was impacted by sitting on the bench for a while and having not been in that situation in the major leagues just yet. We'll see how it goes for Kyle Bradish. I by no means am suggesting that that's a declarative statement about him whatsoever, but we do file it away.
For Bowie, Velez is starting today. Maybe they're piggybacking DL Hall with Velez. That might be what they piggyback a lot.
I know. I could have sworn.
But back to your point about Bradish, his first time experiencing.
He's starting. Yeah, he's starting. There's a tweet from the Bowie Bay Sox 23 minutes ago.
Oh, they just made
DL Hall is starting this morning.
They
That's
haven't.
what I thought.
They haven't updated it on the minor league website.
I don't know.
But to your point about Bradish, it was his first time experiencing a long inning and then coming back out. And we saw with Grayson Rodriguez 2 starts ago where he got warmed up and then there was a rain delay and then he had to do it again. And these guys have had a lot of success at the minor league level. And one of the things that they're going to need to work on is when their team scores them a ton of runs in one inning and they have to sit for a while, coming back out and still being aggressive, still hitting your spots and being able to get guys out when you have a big lead. And it's weird to me that there seems to be kind of a mental block where maybe you're thinking all I have to do now is throw strikes and you throw too many strikes.
Maybe, yeah. You don't have to make the same pitches. I hear you.
But they got to learn to go out there and just pitch like it's still nothing.
Whatever it is. And again, it's something that they've almost certainly dealt with at some point in their baseball career, but I accept that it's different once you get to the major leagues. Because the innings take longer. I mean, it's just the reality. At the major league level, everything takes longer. There's a longer commercial break between. Everything takes longer at the major leagues than it takes at any other level. So if you pitched in high school and your team scored 8 runs in an inning, you didn't have to wait as long. And the guys you were facing weren't as good as this. Mm-hmm. You might have been able to get away with sort of relaxing a little bit at that level. There's nothing until you experience this, you can't possibly be prepared for it. Now he's experienced it. And I don't know if Kyle Bradish is going to be put in the same situation in his next start or the start after that. I have no idea when the Orioles are going to put up another crooked number in an inning when Kyle Bradish starts. But it will be something to file away for the next time he's in that situation. It would be wild. Somebody would say, why not, right? Like somebody would say, it's the Royals. Nobody's going to the ballpark this weekend. You have no reason to be there. Other than if for whatever reason it's a Mother's Day tradition with your family.
Hat.
Yeah, right? That's the only reason there would be to go to the ballpark this weekend. I know they did the $4 tickets for this weekend too, so maybe some people took advantage of that. But there's no real attraction to going to the ballpark this weekend, and I would argue it would be a better time to have Adley Rutschman come up than the Yankees series would be when literally you have the Yankees
There's going to be 28,000 there anyway.
Yeah, I mean, like I've never understood why that was the target date, but everybody has assumed it as the target date, and everybody has kind of worked around the plans that that's the way it was going to be, that he would go to Norfolk next week and then be here for the Yankees series the following week. I would absolutely argue that it would just be better to do it this weekend, and the fact that it would give you that additional, like it would give baseball juice, not just local juice, but baseball juice to 1 versus 2, both being on the field at the same time for a weekend if it was Adley Rutschman versus Bobby Witt Jr. Again, I'm assuming that ain't going to happen. There's nothing that suggests that it's the case.
Hey,
but
3 hits, 4 runs in 2 games with Bowie.
Man, I'm not saying he couldn't be here. I'm not saying that at all. I just don't get the sense that he will be here, and it's a shame because otherwise there's just not. There's very little I can sell about this weekend.
Right.
I can't. I told you last night. I thought it was worth going to the ballpark last night. Tonight, it was Spencer Watkins. And by the way, completely forgot Chris Archer was a Twin. Utterly forgot
He's
Chris
having a
Archer
renaissance
was a
season,
Twin.
too.
Chris Archer, I mean, was a hell of a pitcher. I don't know what happened to him, but he was a hell of a pitcher. Nothing really this week. I guess Zimmerman would start this week. When does Zimmerman start again?
He just started 2 days ago, so
yeah,
probably not till Monday.
No, I guess they don't have an off
maybe
day.
Sunday.
Yeah, it would have to
Monday,
be. It would be
yeah,
Sunday.
I imagine he starts Sunday.
It'd be Sunday, right? So yeah, I mean, if you want to say that Zimmerman's the closest thing the Orioles have to a guy that you go to the ballpark to see, then that would be a reason to go to the ballpark this weekend. But instead, why don't you skip it and listen to Rita and I on the Fan on Sunday afternoon? That's the way that I would handle my Sunday. If I were making plans for you, I would plan around that. I did see the Madison Bumgarner thing yesterday. By the way, today's show is also brought to you by the Baltimore Police. Looking for a few folks. Join a proud new generation, the Baltimore Police, and make an active difference in your community. Start with competitive wages and excellent benefits on day one. Join for good, bpdrecruit.org. So, what was the name of the umpire, the Madison Bumgarner? Bellino, is that his name? I believe it's Dan Bellino. Hang on a second. Let me make sure I have that right. Yes, Dan Bellino is the name of this umpire. If you did not see the Madison Bumgarner thing, it's one of the more insane things I've ever seen. So Dan Bellino is the umpire. He goes to check Madison Bumgarner for a foreign substance at the end of an inning. One of the early innings of the game. I don't remember the first second, whatever it was. Very early on.
With game replays. Only on NFL Game Pass for just $9.99.
It's the weirdest thing you'll ever see. Now, it's made even weirder because everybody's sharing it in slow motion.
He didn't like
but
this
even
pitch to
in
Garrett
live,
Cooper. Yeah, look,
it's
he
very
starts
odd.
to walk off the mound.
He's
he thinks he
rubbing
got the
Madison
call third
Bumgarner's
strike.
hand like
He
a
didn't get
creep
the call. It was off the plate.
and staring
But,
between Dan Bellino
he
and
ends up
Madison
getting thrown
Bumgarner, nor
out.
do I care.
And he had
right?
to be
Like, why would I
restrained
possibly
by,
care
3 or 4
about
Diamondbacks
what's going on with an Arizona Diamondback? Why would anybody, frankly, care about what's going on with the Arizona Diamondbacks?
Dan Bellino threw him out right there. That was that.
But this is the type of thing that must be eradicated from the game. This is the type of thing where clearly, for whatever reason, and by the way, Madison Bumgarner might have been a jerk to this dude for years. I don't know, but it's irrelevant. He's a baseball player. People pay to watch him play. And that doesn't mean that umpires shouldn't be able to control the games. They shouldn't be, that whatever their calls are, that's the way that it goes. I understand we have to have rules. We have to have some sort of order to competitive sports. But there was clearly a dude with an agenda yesterday who masqueraded as an umpire. And the umpires, to their credit, have an incredibly strong union. Their organization is unbelievable. No matter how much they F anything up, there are never consequences for it.
Angel Hernandez.
It's insanity. I mean, it's absolutely unbelievable. But this type of thing ends up being shared quickly and overwhelmingly all over social media. And so the topic yesterday throughout baseball was this incident with this ego-tripped umpire staring down Madison Bumgarner so that he could set him up to lose his mind and eject him from the game. And it's beyond having no place in baseball. It's the type of thing where at some point the sport has to stand up to their own umpires and say, we don't care if you threaten to go on strike. We're over it. Nobody is here to watch you. You might not be getting paid what the players are getting paid, but you're getting paid. You're getting compensated well for the job that you do. This will end. Because the only reason anybody might have to go to an Arizona Diamondbacks game is because Madison Bumgarner is pitching. And the idea that you're doing anything to get a rise out of him, to get him out of the game, is so beyond the pale, it's unforgivable. There are enough problems within the sport of baseball. The haves and the have-nots, the fact that the game has changed so dramatically, people's various opinions on unwritten rules, whatever it is. There are enough problems that the sport deals with. For the umpires to create new ones cannot happen. There can be no gray area here. Baseball has to take power back from the umpires. I don't even know if it's technically a union or if it's just I don't even know what the title is.
I think it's a union.
I think it's a union, but if it's not, it's essentially a union, just with a different term. They have to take power back. This is far too common within the sport. And you hear from the umpires, well, we get abused. Hey, man, I had some maniac screaming F-bombs at me on Twitter yesterday.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but it's no different than what you say in here, for what it's worth. You just wait till the microphone's off normally, and then you unleash your tirade. This happens. And I'm not saying it's okay. I'm saying that, like, the idea that means that it gives you license to go back at the players in this sport, everyone is there to see the players. Of anyone that is there. Anyone that's watching is watching to see the players. The power for the umpires should be minimal. There is no sport where ejections are more indirect to the rules than baseball. You get ejected from a basketball game, it's because you did something that we can go to the rule book and say, look, if you do this, you get ejected. Draymond Green got ejected from a basketball game because of his own actions. There are people that argue that even that you don't want to see. We don't want to watch basketball games where the players are getting ejected. If there's any chance to not eject the player, you shouldn't eject the player. That's the argument in basketball. But at least you can go back to saying, hey, the rules say this. In baseball, whenever somebody mouths off, the umpire can just say, we're ejecting you. There's no rhyme or reason to it. It's up to their discretion. Once we've decided we've had enough, we just eject you. You want to yell about something, we'll let you yell about it to an extent. And yes, ejections are part of baseball. I made that argument a couple weeks ago when there was the incident with Trey Mancini at first base. That Brandon Hyde was supposed to get himself ejected to allow Trey Mancini to cool down, to keep him in the game. Ejections have kind of become part of the game. But an umpire yesterday was clearly seeking to eject a player from a baseball game to find a reason to get a rise out of the guy, and it's a joke. And something has to be done about it. And the rogue, we're in control thing, and don't get me wrong, the ego of athletes is out of control in a lot of cases. And the belief that they are larger than life because of the amount of money that they've been paid to play a sport, I have no doubt in plenty of... I don't know anything about Madison Bumgarner. Madison Bumgarner might be the nicest guy on the face of the planet. I mean, I guess I know what he's involved with the rodeo somehow.
Yeah, I believe he has a ranch, and he's like a cowboy.
I think he's legitimate, but I believe he's legitimately competed in rodeos. Mm-hmm. I don't know if Madison Bumgarner is a dick or if he's a nice guy. I don't know.
I think he's somewhere in the middle. I think he probably can be a dick. I think he's just a country boy.
But that sounds like everybody. I mean, like, everybody's capable. I don't know. Because he's never been here. He's never been part of my sphere, my universe. But even if he is the biggest a-hole on the face of the planet, he's still the guy people are paying to go see. And every ounce of your power as an umpire has to be put into, we're going to do everything to make sure that that guy doesn't. We only eject him if we absolutely must. And that can't happen. And baseball, this isn't about a rogue umpire. Because if it's not Dan Bellino, it's another guy. It's about the power that they've given to the umpires' union over the years. That at some point they've got to work on taking back. You're here, despite the fact that a lot of people think you shouldn't even be part of the game anymore. You're here, but you've got to understand what matters about this sport. This, it's easy to say, is unacceptable. I mean, it's easy to, that's brainless for me to say it's unacceptable. It's beyond unacceptable. There should be significant penalty for it. And I don't know what Madison Bumgarner might have said. I'm not a lip reader, and I didn't care enough to go try to dissect the audio. I'm sure the John Boy guy that thinks that he knows everything did. I'm sure there's a video somewhere of someone guessing exactly what it was that Madison Bumgarner said, and maybe he said something truly heinous, and if that's the case, he should face penalty for it too. I don't know. But that, staring at someone, trying to show them up, trying to get a rise out of them when you are an umpire, you are not capable of being an independent party if that's who you are. That guy can't umpire a baseball game because he's not capable of it. Because the job requires utter and complete independence. No feelings whatsoever. And someone who would stare down a pitcher and try to get a rise out of them is not capable of doing that job. Knowing the rules is important. Being able to adjudicate a baseball game is important. But utter and complete independence of any emotion, any thought whatsoever is required out of doing that job, and Dan Bellino is quite incapable, clearly, of being utterly and completely independent. And because of that, he can't do the job. He's got to go.
But they're not going to do anything about it.
No, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
The problem is they have usurped, the umpiring group has usurped an amount of power away from Major League Baseball.
It's stupid, really.
It's nuts. It's nuts.
I've never seen a profession where nobody is held accountable. They're never held accountable.
I got to be fair about this. We criticize missed calls, and I know that Angel Hernandez, I think that something came out over the weekend that, Major League Baseball has quietly said, we're giving you a 2-inch buffer on strikes. Mm-hmm. So when they grade these umpires, the independent groups that grade the umpires, Major League Baseball's grades are not the same for the umpires. So when you see those 80 Angel Hernandez had an 80% night, that's not the internal number that Major League Baseball has. Right. Now that's a bigger problem.
Now they do pick and choose who umpires in the playoffs and in the World Series, and Angel Hernandez was left out, I believe, last year of the playoffs. So there are punishments for that, but these guys are still making over $300,000 a year, and they don't lose their jobs or get demoted or anything like that. So
it's a problem. It's a problem. There's no getting around it. It's a huge problem. And there's not an easy, the broad thing that I can say, the broad dumb guy thing that I can say is that you got to get control. You got to take back control of or power, whatever it is. You've got to take control of it as a sport and say, you guys can be as mad as you want about this, but this can't exist within the sport. Today's show also brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel. Fight night, Saturday night, UFC 274. You're going to want to be there, Inside Sports and Social, using the 61 self-service kiosks in order to get your bets in, plus Canelo Alvarez and Dimitri Bivol, and a bunch of big fights on Saturday. Every night during the playoffs in hockey and basketball, you can get there. There are so many prop bets available for each game during the playoffs. It'll make your head spin. And if you want to reserve your spot for the fights, email events@sportssocialmd.com, the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino Hotel, Maryland. All right, let's switch gears. Oh, by the way, and yes, Brian Powell also points out, on top of everything else with the Orioles and Royals, it is supposed to rain this weekend too. So not much of an argument for going to the ballpark. But, if you're going, enjoy. I don't want to come off like a jerk. Enjoy. Switch gears. Baltimore Ravens made a bunch of picks last weekend, and one of those players was selected in the third round, a defensive tackle out of UConn named Travis Jones. And we want to get to know Travis Jones a little bit better. So it so happens that someone that we got to know for years around here was his coach at UConn. It's a pleasure for us to welcome back to the program former Maryland coach Randy Edsall, who's with us now here on GCR. Coach, it's Glenn and Paul. It's good to chat with you again. Thank you for taking a couple of minutes for us this morning.
No problem. Glad to be with you guys.
It's great to chat.
Good to talk about Travis.
Well, I want to get to know. Give me your first interaction, your first memory, the first time you realized, hey, this kid might be something special.
Well, I'll tell you, he was coming out of high school. He was a big kid. He was 6'4" and 350-some pounds, and you just watched his athleticism. He came to our camp, and you watched his athleticism, and you watched him move. And, good kid, soft-spoken, and very polite. He said, this kid's got a real opportunity to be a good player, and he was a worker. He liked to lift weights then and all those things, so we just felt that, we could help him, and just to see the to see all the, information. I mean, see, he developed, the whole time it was there. You could just see that he was going to be a really good player because he really liked to work.
Was there an on-the-field moment? Was there a game that stood out to you where you saw it clicking, where you realized this guy's going to end up in the NFL at some point?
You just basically, I don't know if it was one game, but you just saw the development and you saw how he ended up developing each year as he was there. I think that was the biggest thing that, for me, is just watching the development. Every year he just got better. And he was a worker, and he's strong, powerful, and did all those things that he needed to do in order to be as good as he became.
He is former Maryland coach Randy Edsall. He's with us on GCR telling us about new Raven Travis Jones. Coach, as far as being a defensive tackle, is he a true kind of run stuffer, the way that we remember like the Tony Siragusa's of the world to be? Is he someone that we could expect could be more involved in the backfield and making plays against quarterbacks?
Well, I think that's one thing where he's maybe wasn't as highly regarded in maybe some camps as he was maybe other ones. He's got tremendous strength and got tremendous leverage. And I was down at the Senior Bowl for 2 days and went down there, and he just dominated those guys down there. He's going to get a push in the run game, but he's going to surprise people in terms of the pressure he can get in rushing the passer on the passing down as well.
Wow.
And I think the one thing is that going into the system there that the Ravens have and the organization under Steve Bisciotti and then with John and Eric, I think he's going to be well served because he's going to have some veterans there, I believe, that are going to be able to help him and show him, that first year or so. And, he'll learn from that because Travis is one of those guys that's a sponge. He's got to take it all in. He's got to look for, those, that kind of veteran mentorship, that I think he'll get there in Baltimore. And but I think he's got the ability to be able to play all three downs. And he's just a big, strong, powerful person.
You had four and a half sacks a year ago, and that's certainly appealing. And whether that can translate, we'll find out. But, boy, that's exciting to think about, Coach. Handling adversity, obviously you guys weren't able to play in 2020, and I know things have been tough the last couple of years. How did he handle all that adversity, and do you think that going through that type of stuff maybe has him a bit more pro-ready because you can't throw something at him that's maybe trickier than what he's already been through?
Well, I think Travis has a chip on his shoulder. I really do. I mean, I know when he went to the Senior Bowl, he wanted to be able to show people, yeah, okay, I'm not from a Power 5 school, but I can play, and I can play this game pretty well. And so I think that's the thing, that he's always got to have in his mind, that he's always got to have a chip on his shoulder, and he knows he's got something to prove, and he's going to go out there each and every day and try to prove it. And when he went against Clemson this past year and was down to Senior Bowl, he more than held his own,
right,
against those type of people. So, but he's one of those guys that, like I said, he doesn't say a whole lot, but like I said, nicest kid, and, come up and introduce himself to you and everything like that, and just wants to work. And he's got to put in the time and do everything he can to be the best he can be. And, there's not going to be any issues on or off the field, with him. And like I said, I think he'll fit very well into the culture there that the Ravens have.
It's hard for me to fathom a 6'4" monster defensive lineman who ended up with nearly 10 sacks in his career being someone that was ever overlooked, right? It's just hard for me to fathom what somebody, what other coaches didn't see when they were scouting a kid like that coming out of high school. Was he a late bloomer at all, Coach? Was that part of it?
No, I mean, he came from Wilberforce High School in New Haven, and that's not a powerhouse. And my son Corey was recruiting him, and we just stayed on him, and he wasn't heavily recruited, and he wasn't a guy that, he's not one of those internet guys and everything else, and a self-promoter and all that stuff. And and he went from like 355 pounds down to 325 pounds. So that tells you something about the kid right there, in terms of
work ethic,
trying to put his, be in the best shape he can be, his work ethic, all those things. And he was a captain, for us. And, he's one of those guys that's going to do it more by example. I mean, he'll speak up if he has to, but, he's just he's a driven person. He knows what he wants to accomplish, and being around the type of people within that Ravens organization is only going to benefit him even more so, and it's going to help him continue to develop because he hasn't reached his full potential yet. That's the good thing. He's not maxed out. John's going to get him, and his defensive coaches are going to get him, and everything else. And you're going to see the guy, continually improve each and every year.
You mentioned the term chip on his shoulder. There were people that thought he was a first-round type of talent. He ends up falling to round 3. Do you feel like that's the type of thing that will also motivate him? That there were a lot of teams that had a lot of opportunities to take him and didn't.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, with that, I think that will motivate him. But as I've always tried to tell guys that I've coached, don't listen to all the pre-draft stuff and all those things, because you never know. And having coached in the NFL myself and sitting in those draft rooms and sitting in the draft meetings and all those sort of things, you don't know how things are going to fall and all that. Just be thankful for the opportunity. But knowing Travis the way I know him, yes, he'll use that as fuel to say, hey, I'm going to show people but that's his nature. He wants to be the best he can be, and he's going to work and do whatever he has to do to be the best he can be.
I like the sounds of that. Coach Randy Edsall with us here on Glenn Clark Radio. Coach, what's going on with you? You have plans? You already have something in line? Is the NFL back in the picture? What's going on in your world?
My world? I'm retired. I'm enjoying retirement. I'm done coaching.
Is that a certainty for you? Have you decided you're done?
I'm done. I'm done. I made that decision. I'm living down in Atlantic Beach, Florida, and live there full time. I play golf 6 days a week, and I play 7, but my course is closed on Mondays, so I can't play on Mondays. And I play 27 on Wednesdays because Mike Malarkey and Tom Coughlin, we play 9 holes together in the afternoon. So there's a bunch of guys that I know that live in the neighborhood where I'm living in down there, and I'm 100 yards from the beach, and hey, I had a great run and a great time coaching and everything else, but I'm very content and very happy, with what I'm doing, and plus with the transfer portal and the name, image, and likeness. I don't even want to be a part of that stuff anymore. I was just at a function, the Peach Bowl Challenge golf tournament over the last couple of days, and it was funny because one of the guys from the Peach Bowl said to me, he said, Randy, he said, look at all you guys that are retired. Steve Spurrier, Frank Beamer, Houston Nutt, a bunch of guys were there. And then you had the current coaches that were there. And he says, you guys are all smiling, but these current guys, they got frowns on their face. They're all upset. I'm playing golf. I'm playing with Pat Narduzzi. He's on the phone the whole 18 holes because he's got his wide receiver going into the portal, and he's trying to get all that stuff figured out. I mean, my phone doesn't ring anymore. I don't have phone calls at midnight saying you got this issue, that issue. So I'm very happy and content playing golf and spending a lot of time with my wife.
Is there anybody that could call you that would make you change? Is there any one person that you're like, man, I hope he doesn't call because that might make me think about it again?
No.
Okay.
It wouldn't matter who would call because excuse me, but yeah, when we finished up our round, I was talking to Steve Spurrier. He said, so Randy, he said, where's your next coaching gig going to be? I said, Steve, there is no more coaching gigs. He said, really? I said, yep. I said, I am done. So, I'm not, nobody could call me. It wouldn't get me, back. Like I said, I've done it, did it for over 42 years, and enjoyed it, the relationships, but, now I want to be able to do the things that I wanted to do maybe before, and now I'm getting the opportunity. I'm going to Pebble Beach to play next week, so,
man. That doesn't sound so bad, Coach. That doesn't sound like a bad way to spend some time. That sounds like a decent, I tell you what, if I could sign myself up for that life, it doesn't sound like one that I would want to turn down. Do you stay in touch with any of the? Do you stay in touch? Like, obviously Stefan's, I think, the richest man on the face of the planet. You stay in touch with any of those guys?
Some, you text guys back and forth and things, and they got their stuff, but you're happy for a guy like him and Yannick, and and that's the thing. I've had the ability to work with a lot of good coaches, a lot of guys on my staff, and then also a lot of good players. And you know what? That's what it's all about to me. It was all about working with people and giving them opportunities that maybe they didn't think they could get, or helping them get opportunities that people helped me get. So, that's the thing that I take from the coaching is just that it was a way for me to give back, to help people accomplish goals that they wanted to accomplish, not just the guys that go to the NFL, but, the guys who maybe didn't play as much, who got degrees but are very successful in life. And, that's what it's all about. And it's sad to see college football really getting away from those things nowadays and what's happening. But no, I got no regrets, and very happy with what I was able to accomplish in coaching for those 42 years. And now, like I said, that's behind me, and I'm already on to the next chapter and enjoyed it very much.
Well, we'll look forward to seeing Travis Jones over the years, and maybe an appearance from you at some point in Baltimore to watch your guy, Randy Edsall. Congratulations.
Well, I'm gonna be up. I'm gonna come up this fall because I got a good friend of mine from up in Pennsylvania where I grew up who's got tickets right behind the Ravens bench right there,
very
like
cool,
in the first or second row. So I already got it arranged where I'm gonna come up and visit him, and he's gonna take me down to. We're going to go to the game. So
that's awesome.
I'm definitely going to get up to see him play.
That'll be really neat. Coach, congratulations on a great run in your career, and looking forward to seeing what your guy Travis Jones is going to bring to Baltimore over the years. Thank you for taking a couple of minutes for us this morning. We really appreciate it.
Really appreciate it, Coach Glenn. Thanks.
Coach Randy Edsall checking in with us here on GCR. Lot to like about what he had to say about Travis Jones. We'll see, like how much the pass rush translates to the next level. I don't even know if that's necessarily. It's funny because who was it we were talking to? We were talking to Rick Spielman, who said that Michael Pierce in Minnesota gave them more in the pass rush department than what they had expected to get out of him when they signed him. And so, there's a thought that maybe he would have more to offer in that department as he comes back to Baltimore than what we saw from him the first time around. It could provide as we try to figure out what they're going to do given the lack of edge rush on this team, a huge way to improve that would be able to get more push from their down linemen. It's easier said than done, obviously, particularly in a 3-4 defense. But it would go a long way into improving the edge rush situation as a whole without them taking an impact edge rusher for this year, again, hoping that David Ajabo becomes that guy at some point. It would go a long way if some of that problem would be solved by you're inserting Michael Pierce, who's maybe better in that department than what we had seen before, and Travis Jones, who has more to offer in that department than perhaps people realize, onto the defensive line, and that helps improve everyone. We'll see. There's no guarantee of it. It's just something to monitor as you deal with the fact, and it's a conversation that continues about the Ravens and what they have and don't have in terms of edge rush. He started veering into the topic of NIL. Look, man, coaches are going to say this ad nauseum, and there's been a lot that's been made of, like the Jay Wrights of the world. There are a lot of coaches who just say, I'm good. The job, welcome to the club. The job is harder than it used to be because of the transfer portal and because of NIL. There's no question. Being a college coach is a harder job than it was 10 years ago. No debate about that whatsoever. But that doesn't make it wrong. That doesn't mean it should go away. If you're someone, and I don't know what Randy Edsall's opportunities would have been. Clearly it did not go well either at Maryland or a second time around at UConn. I'm going to guess the opportunities were going to be limited, so it might be easier for him to say, I'm good. Go back being an assistant. I'm good. I got enough. I've banked enough. Jay Wright has made a lot more and has been far more successful in his career, but it's easier for a coach to say, I'm good. I don't need to do that. That's their choice. It's fine. If you're in that position where you've made enough money and you don't have to do it, God bless you. You don't have to do it. But the idea that means that we should change the job, we need to make the job easier for the guys that still have it, that, it's too tough of a job for Mike Loxley. Nah. This is the reality. And schools are going to have to build it. And if they believe that these sports are profitable, and they do, I assure you they do, you build a stronger support staff to help handle the unique challenges of NIL and the transfer portal. You do whatever you got to do. They definitely think the sports are profitable enough that they can do that. And the jobs still seem to be lucrative enough that plenty of qualified candidates want them. Would college basketball be better with Jay Wright? Probably, on the whole. College basketball would probably be better if Jay Wright was still there. But does Jay Wright retiring mean college basketball is ruined? And I don't even know that uniquely this is the reason why Jay Wright retired. It might just very well be that he was going to retire anyway. Even if there was no NIL, even if there was no. The idea that this is proof that it doesn't work or that you have to change the rules or something like that, nonsense. And most people would say, particularly nonsense, that Randy Edsall saying that. I mean, Randy Edsall, I've never had an issue with Randy Edsall whatsoever. He and I got along quite fine. But let's be very blunt about it. If Randy Edsall was struggling before these things came along, he definitely wasn't likely to get better when the job got more difficult. I don't think anybody is lamenting the idea that this is what has run Randy Edsall out of the game. I think that most people would say, okay, we'll be all right with that. Not that I'm wishing ill on Randy Edsall, just I think that's the reality of the circumstance.
Playing golf 6 days a week.
Yeah,
I love golf, and I don't think I could do that.
Oh, I wouldn't. It wouldn't. I mean, golf isn't my game, but
I feel like you playing tennis.
But I'm telling you, I would.
Yeah.
Like if I got to a certain point in my life and I was still able to get around, and I watched some of these old guys. Man, John Proctor and I played on Sunday morning, and there was a group playing doubles next to us, and there was an old guy. Like it was younger guys, and then one old guy that was part of the group, and he was still getting up for ball. Like he was definitely better than Proctor and I were. And I was like, damn, that would be awesome. Like to be the age where you could just play tennis and get better at it, and you've done enough in your life that like you can just carve out time in your day every day to go play tennis. Like that's the new goal for me in life. Like is to get to a place. I don't think I'll ever be able to retire. I don't think that's just going to be an option for me. I don't think I have a retirement fund. I haven't spent a lot of time on those types of things, but man, that would be great. All right, hour number 1 of today's show is in the books. And hour number 2, Taylor Cummings, Maryland legend, is going to join us. We'll get ready for this summer's World Lacrosse Championships right here in our backyard. She'll tell us all about that. Today's show also brought to you by the print issue of Press Box, which is available right now for free at your neighborhood Royal Farms, any of the hundreds of locations around town where you find Press Box. Read it all, PressBoxOnline.com. We were just talking about Adley Rutschman earlier in the hour. He's on the cover. Great cover story from Luke Jackson. Go pick that up right now. Print issue of Press Box. Read it all, PressBoxOnline.com. It's Glenn Clark Radio. Sports fans, the wait is over. The all-new FanDuel Sportsbook is now open at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover, Maryland. This is your chance to win big right in your own backyard. Bet on every sport with self-service kiosks and watch all of the action from the best seat in the house. Make every moment more at the all-new FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover. Please play responsibly. Gambling problem? Please call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit mdgamblinghelp.org.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Baseball is back, and so is the spring seasonal menu at Glory Days Grill. Start with the opener, flash-fried pork belly with our popular Korean No. 2 sauce, and take a bite out of the Crunch Burger, topped with home run sauce, white American cheese, and house-made chips. It also features irresistible options like a baseball-cut sirloin with blue cheese, grilled shrimp with garlic butter, and a strawberry salmon salad. And then there's the closer, the Cracker Jack Sundae with a waffle, ice cream, and Cracker Jack. This menu will be gone at your neighborhood Glory Days Grill. GloryDaysGrill.com to find out more. Great food, good sports.
Baseball is back. I'm Paul Valley.
And I'm Zach Goodman.
You can find us live every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon talking all things Orioles and Major League Baseball.
Like the debuts of Adley Rutschman and Grayson Rodriguez.
And how the rotation and bullpen are rounding into form. Watch us live at youtube.com/PressBoxOnline and Facebook.com/PressBoxSports.
Or you can listen at PressBoxOnline.com/radio.
And driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today.
If you miss anything, don't forget that you can find whole shows later on Spotify, Apple, or Amazon Podcasts. It's Glenn Clark Radio.
Into hour number 2 of GCR. Glenn Clark, Paul Valley with you. You know what? I just realized I'm going to talk. Paul, can I talk about what's going on? Can we share that? You okay with me sharing that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do this on the show because you guys are going to see me post some things publicly a little bit later today, and I just want to talk about it really quickly. So later today, we're going to be kind of posting publicly that we are looking for a new permanent producer and sidekick for the show. And Paul's unfortunately only been with us for a little while, but he's taking a job at Super Megacorp. He's going into the workforce. He's going to become a working stiff. And it's just not one that's going to be able to keep him here. And we certainly know the realities of what we're doing here. I'll pull back the curtain for you guys. This job is not a full-time job, unfortunately. It is, we do a 2-hour show every day. So your schedule kind of has to work with this time in order for this job to work. And when Paul took the job, it worked quite well. But unfortunately, Paul is he's going to work for the man. He's going to be this guy for the next 50 years, and he's going to go down and drink Schlitzes on the weekends with the boys. I mean, this happens. This certainly happens, and we understand it. And Paul's going to be with us for another couple weeks, and I think we might have some interim solutions, but we're going to need, no matter what, ultimately we're going to need a permanent replacement for Paul. And we're going to be opening that up. It just so happened to work out when Kyle left that Paul was here, and it was serendipitous that we didn't need to open it up and do a search or anything along those lines. It worked out perfectly. Unfortunately, some of our internal candidates, it's a very similar situation because of their own schedules and their own jobs. It just won't work out for them to be the permanent option. Again, they can help in other capacities, and they can be some interim solutions for us, but couldn't do the job permanently. And that's okay. And we understand that, and we know what it is that we're dealing with, and I wish that I could say that we could change what the job is, and so, we could make it a well-paying 6-figure job. I'd like that for me, personally. Be willing to split a 6-figure job with someone, frankly. So that's the reality of the circumstance. So when you see that pop up later, I don't want you all to be caught off guard or think that we're hiding something from you. Paul let us know a while ago and gave us plenty of time in order to be prepared for it. We are going to look – I say we're going to look to move quickly. I don't know if we're going to look to move as quickly. It's just kind of depend on what our interim options are. If there's someone that could take the job over permanently quickly, that would be ideal, right? Because we could have them ready to go in a few weeks and get them up to speed and be ready to be part of it. But you're going to see that. I'm going to be starting to put it out there, and we'll be posting it to various job boards and places. It is a part-time job that you know what the hours are. These are the hours that are required. It's for a young person or someone whose other work lines up hourly with this working out. Paul was working nights, so it worked out perfectly. That's who this job is for uniquely, and that we understand limits our pool. Like, we get that. But that's the reality of the circumstances. And for somebody that's looking to get into the business, particularly if you're a young person, it's a great opportunity for you to cut your teeth and sort of learn your way. And we understand that the person that we hire, if the job continues to be this, might not be someone who's here much longer than Paul was. We get that. Kyle was a little invested because he helped us launch this thing, so he wanted to stick around for as long as he possibly could. But we get it. Ultimately, life is life, and we understand the way that works. So I'm just sharing that with you so that you guys aren't caught off guard later when you see, what the hell, they're looking for a producer? Did they fire Paul? No, we didn't fire Paul's. Super Mega Corp, baby. Like TPS reports, the whole deal. That's the way it's going to go. He's selling paper in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and we wish him well. And you're still going to do the baseball show moving forward. So the bat around won't change. Paul will still be here every Saturday morning talking baseball, even after he moves on from being a part of us. So that's just full disclosure.
If I may comment on it.
No. Okay.
No, this is for me, it's a little heartbreaking because working in sports is something I've wanted to do since I was a teenager, and I love doing it. But somebody once said there comes a time when you have to stop doing what you want to do, and you have to start doing what you have to do.
It's the reality of the circumstances.
And Glenn and Stan and John have always been so helpful for me, and they've given me a lot of opportunities. Gave me my first opportunity to get to be paid to work in sports, and I will be forever grateful. Like Glenn said, I'm not
a six-figure job. Man.
I'm not fully going away. I'm still going to do the bat around. There's a reason I got choked up telling you guys.
Hey man,
I respect you guys so much, and I love to do this. It's just what I have to do if I want to start a family.
The bad news is our highlight reel is not going to be significant. We just didn't have you for long enough. The highlight reel isn't. It's basically going to be when you eat the watermelon next week. That's going to be the entirety of the highlight reel.
And me going to see Limp Bizkit next Sunday.
Right. And he's still going to do those things. He's still going to pay off it's part of the reason why I wanted when I lined up the time for when we pay off the bet, part of the reason I wanted to do it quickly, one, I knew Ken Zales was retiring. Two, I knew that Paul was leaving. So I was like, well, if it's one of those two, we need to do it quickly. Mm-hmm. If it was me, we could wait forever, but I would have been willing to do it quickly. So we'll do that, and he's still going to go see Limp Bizkit. He's still going to pay off, and you would still have to pay off if you lose the baseball bet this year.
Yeah.
We still got to deal with that. You need to touch base with Arditi and figure out what's going on. He still owes us from last year. Need to figure out what's going on with that. And I kind of wanted to make a punishment week next week. I kind of wanted to do a full, you pay off your punishment. Steck is paying off his punishment next Friday. He's coming back. He's literally flying home to eat a tarantula. I haven't seen
get his back waxed.
I haven't seen. I need him to send pic. He's joining us on Weekend at Bookies. We'll talk about it then. I haven't seen like a picture of the tarantula. I would assume that he's got it by now. I can't believe he's pushing it all the way up against when he's got to fly home.
It's a dead tarantula, right?
Yes, it's not eating a live tarantula. You can order them on Amazon. You can get. It's like a prepared cooked tarantula, but you're still looking at a tarantula that you're about to consume.
I'm so glad I wasn't part of that.
Bit much, man. It is a bit much. So yeah, that's what you need to know. We will be just when you see that pop up later today. It's not. There's nothing crazy going on. Nobody's been fired. Nobody's given us the double bird and walked out the door. Paul's gonna be here for another couple of weeks, but we got to start making plans for who the permanent replacement for Paul will be. So don't be alarmed or shocked when you start when you see that posted. It's going to have to be posted today. There was one person who was an option that I was kind of letting that drag out for a little bit, who still I think is going to be part of getting shepherding us through this time period. But either way, we're going to need a permanent person for the job, or a more permanent person for the job. So we'll start posting and looking for that. And if you know somebody who you think is looking to dip their toes into these waters, break in, get an opportunity, then please have them email me. In fact, email me on my personal email, glennclarkradio@gmail.com. If you think there's somebody that would be a fit or that would be interested, please let me know. It is an hourly position, and it kind of works with your availability. If you're available for more of the day, there might be a couple more hours available, for some various things. So that's what's going on. I think we've handled that. I think that's all anybody needed to know. I think it's probably more than you needed to know. But again, I don't like doing things and leaving people asking questions, so I don't want you to see, searching for a Glenn Clark radio producer and being like, what the hell? What is that all about? So now you have your answer. Paul's going to the big time workforce. He's going to go he's going to go to Bethlehem Steel. That's the way that this is all going to go play out. All right, so there's that. Now, couple of things. One, Ravens rookie camp gets underway today out in Owings Mills. I don't think they're doing on-field today. I think on-field is today or tomorrow and Saturday. I think today is just a like an orientation type of deal. So a lot of people commenting. David Ajabo did a lengthy thing with Alex Pruitt. Alex Pruitt, who used to cover Maryland, now covers college football, college sports for SI, and he did a lengthy story about David Ajabo, and in that story, Says, instead, as always, he is looking ahead to his next lofty dream, this time a healthy return to the field for his NFL debut in 2022. Quote, so far no pain, good flexibility, already biking, unquote, he says. Quote, Cam Akers busted it and played in 5.5 months. That lands me at August, September, maybe even October. Season's still going. So yeah, I anticipate playing, unquote. Even if he is asked to take it slow and sit out for a year, though, the approach won't change. Quote, the way I carried myself throughout my whole life is what got me here, so I'm just going to apply that, unquote. It doesn't really tell us anything, and of course a player who's trying to maximize his value, like David Ojabo, definitely wants you to believe he's going to be available to play this year, and it's what he's been telling teams unquestionably throughout the process. He's not going to, 5 minutes after he gets drafted, turn around and said, I lied to all of you, I can't play till 2023. That's not going to be the case. But to be fair, it is something that we've talked about. The timeline for these injuries is not what it was 10 years ago. Now, what Alex Pruitt said there is relevant too. You're probably less likely to rush someone like David Ojabo than you would be an established player. The comparison to Cam Akers, for example, is a bit different. The Rams knew what Cam Akers was capable of doing, how helpful he had been to their football team, and as they were trying to win a Super Bowl, they were probably willing to put Cam Akers out there a bit quicker than they put a less proven commodity. David Ojabo in the NFL is a less proven commodity, which doesn't mean he couldn't be ready in a similar timeline and really could be ready by November to play in the NFL. I think if we're being realistic, we still acknowledge that expectations for a player that is still young in his own football career, has only been playing the sport for a few years, and is coming off a serious injury, should be tempered even if he did see the field this season. But I don't think it's a certainty. I've never thought it was a certainty that he couldn't play at all in 2022. He clearly doesn't think it's a certainty that he couldn't play at all in 2022. I definitely don't think the Ravens should just announce this is going to be a redshirt year for David Ojabo, particularly because they're going to have the advantage of putting him on the PUP list. He's not going to have to be someone who's designated a return from IR. He's going to be on IR to start the season. So they have a while to figure out whether or not he's going to have to be put on NC. Like there's no, the time frame for this is so far down the road as far as any decision the Ravens have to make related to their roster that it's not even worth worrying about much right now. Now, when we get 6 weeks into the season, that'll be different. They're going to need to have a better feel for where he is, when they could activate him, all of those things. But today, it's kind of irrelevant. Today, it's just wait and see. I don't think the Ravens should be operating fully with the idea that there's no way, even if we think he's ready, we wouldn't let him. We're going to give him a redshirt year. If the guy can play, Lord knows what other injuries you might have. You absolutely might end up giving David Ojabo the chance to play. It'd be insane to just say we wouldn't. It'd be nuts. But that's something that we'll deal with as we get. It's clearly not in the plans for week 1. I mean, that would be nuts. It would be nuts to think that David Ojabo is going to be part of the plans for week 1. But could he be part of the plans for this season? Maybe. Let's temper expectations. Let's be reasonable about this. But could he maybe be part of the plans for this year? Maybe is the fairest way to say it. Maybe David Ojabo could be part of it somehow, some way. We'll see. We'll see. Don't have any guarantees. All right. From Joe. Joe says, Glenn, as far as your question about the wide receiver room, this is where I'm at. I absolutely want to see them bring in a veteran. I think Jarvis Landry is the guy that makes the most sense, even if he's not a natural Hollywood Brown replacement. I guess in my mind, the way this works is that Duvernay is asked to do more of what Hollywood Brown did. They just use him in different ways. And instead, you want to have guys that you can rely on to catch the ball when the ball is thrown, but also are physical and capable blockers. I just don't think it's the exact same usage of wide receivers as it was before. You still want to have speed on the field, and Duvernay can do that, but you want to have one more guy you can rely on. It won't be perfect. There's no way they can have a perfect group at this point. Yeah, probably the case. It's probably the case at this point. That there's just, you're going to have to work with what you got and go from there. From Dan. Dan says, sorry, I'm going through a bunch of different things. Thank you. From Dan, Glenn, as far as what I want to do at wide receiver, yes, ideally I want to trade for a top guy like a Samuel or a McLaurin. If that is not possible, and I'm willing to pay a heavy price for either one, they're both outstanding talents in different ways and guys that are worth paying big prices and big contracts to, because that's the way the game works any longer. If that's not an option, then at this point, I would probably say don't even bother with any of these other veteran receivers and just go with the group that you have. Either I need someone who's top-notch, or I don't need to waste any more resources at that position, particularly if the money that's required in order to sign that type of player means that you have to cut someone. I will cut someone for Deebo Samuel or Terry McLaurin. Boy, that sounds threatening the way that he said. I'll cut someone, right? I'll cut someone for Deebo Samuel or Terry McLaurin, but not for T.Y. Hilton or even Julio Jones. I mean, I don't think that you should have to cut anyone in order to...
You said yesterday you got 4 guys in there.
What's that?
You said yesterday you only got 4 guys in there. Why would you have to cut somebody?
I think he means more contract-wise. Mm-hmm. Like if in order to create money after you pay your rookie class, you need to find money somewhere else. Like, there's some weird bit over the weekend where people are talking about cutting Nick Boyle. I'm like, Nick, first of all, you don't even save money until next year with Nick Boyle. I'm like, what? How backwards do our brains work that you take 2 tight ends in the 4th round of the draft and you're like, well, I guess that means someone's got to go.
Yeah, people see Mark Andrews in the 3rd round. They see Dennis Pitta in the 4th round. They think that all tight ends are interchangeable.
Look, I hope these guys hit. Hayden Hurst was a 1st-round pick.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
he gone.
And by the way, he was. It's unfair to Hayden Hurst. He was fine. He was helpful
he was
here.
A solid player.
He was. If these guys end up being Hayden Hurst, that's a huge win because you took him in the 4th round, not in the 1st round. It's a massive win. The problem was you took Hayden Hurst in the 1st round, and he didn't pan out to be worth a 1st-round pick. But if one of these 2 dudes can be anything like Hayden Hurst, that's a massive win for the Baltimore Ravens if it pans out that way. But they're also not what Nick Boyle is. They're not blocking tight ends. These guys are space guys. These guys are get open guys. These guys are not Nick Boyle. And given what the Ravens do, it's a nuts comparison. So I saw people talking about that. There's somebody else who I saw, like maybe Chuck Clark. A lot of people talked about Chuck Clark being on the chopping block. You would try to trade Chuck Clark if that were the case. You certainly wouldn't be releasing him. That wouldn't make any sense in the world. And it's not going to save you all that much money. I was looking at that the other day. I don't even know that it saves you anything right now. So I don't see that either. You guys got to remember, there are going to be injuries. Somebody's going to get hurt between now and the start of the season. So to the greater point that he made, that, if it costs you something, you don't necessarily want to do it. I hear you. I can't fathom. Jarvis Landry is the only one of this group that I think would be costing you real money. I just can't. I mean, if any of these other guys want real money, then it's a simple answer. And there's a limit to what you would pay to Jarvis Landry. Continue to get me your responses at Glenn Clark Radio on Twitter as we will discuss that. What do you want, by the time we get to the season, what do you want the Ravens wide receiver room to look like? That is the topic that we are discussing this morning here on GCR. Let's pause from that, however, and discuss something else, as there is a massive event coming to our backyard this summer. And someone who's going to be a part of that is one of the greatest players in the history of the sport. She is a Maryland legend. She is Taylor Cummings, and she's gearing up for the Women's Lacrosse World Championships at Towson University, June 29th through July 9th. She's with us here on GCR. Taylor, it's Glenn and Paul. It's great to chat with you. Thank you so much for taking a couple of minutes for us this morning.
Super excited to be on, and thanks so much for having me on.
It's great to chat with you. Taylor, can you put into words, like, what this means to you as a kid who's from here, your life has been here, that you get to now play for a world championship in your own backyard this summer? Like, have you been able to fully grasp what that means? Will it maybe not hit you until you actually take the field?
You know, I think it's one of those things that I probably won't be able to put into words and fully recognize until we're on the field for opening ceremonies. You know, my whole playing career has basically been in the state of Maryland, and who knows what's to come after this World Championship. So the fact that we get to not only host in the United States, but to have the games in a state where a few of us are from, compete against hometown fans. I mean, what more could you ask for?
I mean, it's incredible. I mean, it's absolutely incredible that this is something that's happening this way. I think a lot of people, Taylor, would just assume, hey, look, this is the World Championships. The United States would win this every time, right? But I don't think they realize how good, how deep, how competitive the World Championships really are.
There are so many different countries who are talented, who are growing, who bring really, really talented teams to World Championships each year. And, you know, Canada, England, Australia, they are the cream of the crop. They are so talented across the board, and a lot of United States players playing for them. So they play collegiately in the United States. They go on to play for their country elsewhere. So it's by no means going to be an easy task to fight for gold. And we've also no host country has ever won on their home soil. So we're really trying to bring home a gold on home soil for the first time.
Taylor, it's such a weird thing, right? Because the two previous times that the United States hosted are the only two times the U.S. hasn't won the World Championship, right? 86 in Philadelphia, it was Australia, and then 2005 in Annapolis when it was also Australia. How important is that? Like, do you feel like it's an added level of pressure being the host to try to win a World Championship? I know you haven't been there before, so I don't know that you can define it quite so much, but how much is that something you guys are talking about that you got to be aware of, whatever that pressure might be?
You know, I think a lot of people have told us that, you know, no host has ever won. I didn't know that, honestly, until we were hosting. So I think, you know, our team is really, we're working with sports psychologists, trying to, you know, do our jobs on our end to make sure that the distractions of hosting don't get in the way of our play. And I think we're just excited for, you know, to get out and compete in front of fans. At the end of the day, our team wants to grow the sport. We want to grow the sport locally. We want to grow the sport internationally. And we're just really excited to be able to go out and compete against talented teams. And our goal is to win a gold, whether we're on our home soil or in Canada or England or anywhere else. And I think we're excited about the opportunity to not only potentially win and fight for gold, but to be able to do so on our home soil for the first time.
The 2022 World Lacrosse Women's World Championship will be at Towson University starting on June 29th with the opening ceremony in USA, Canada, through July 9th, the closing ceremony and the championship game. You can go to womensworldlax2022.com right now in order to get your tickets and find out more about this summer's World Championships. You know, Taylor, you've obviously done just about everything there is to do in the sport to this point. Does it, I don't want to say like this completes anything, because my God, you still have plenty of years of playing lacrosse that could be ahead of you. But like, where does this feel as important to say, hey, look, for everything I've done, hosting and winning a World Championship would sort of be like the pinnacle at this point in the sport?
You know, I think having been away from the college game for so long, U.S. has really become a huge focus of mine. And luckily we've had the professional leagues develop, and we were able to play in Athletes Unlimited last summer, and it's going on again this summer after World Championships. But, you know, U.S. is that one thing that, you know, the reason that so many of us got into playing is to be a part of a team and work together towards that goal. And, you know, I think it's a goal of all of ours, and having it be a year delayed due to COVID, it's something that means even more to us now. And I don't know what is to come post World Championships, but I think all of us know the incredible opportunity that we have, and just not going to take any second that we have the opportunity to wear a penny or a jersey or even a U.S. T-shirt for granted.
Taylor, you were on the 2017 team, correct?
Correct.
What was that experience like for you after everything you had accomplished? I mean, all the championships, Tawarton Awards. What was that like for you to win your first world championship?
It was unbelievable, and having won national championships, you feel like that's the highest it can go, and then to be on foreign soil, to hear the national anthem played before a World Cup final, I remember like tearing up because
wow.
It just means so much that you're truly representing your country, and what an honor that is. So, yeah, playing for Maryland was the greatest experience of my life. Playing for the U.S. team, probably the most humbling experience of my life, and the biggest honors are playing for both of those. So, having competed in 2017, I know how special it is, and we have a few players who are on that 2017 team returning to the 2022 team that, bring a lot of experience and emotion, and I think we're excited to hopefully be able to replicate that and also be able to witness now these first-timers go through it and feel how special it is.
And a few of your former Maryland teammates who are back for this World Championship roster, correct?
Correct. We have 4 Terps, 3 of which played in World Championships in 2017. Alice Mercer, who was my class, Meg Dowdy, who was a year above me, and then Lizzie Colson, who we just missed by a year, Alice and I. So lots of Terp blood and, a lot of UNC blood and Syracuse blood, Stony Brook blood. There's a lot of players who went to school together, which I think just really brings that camaraderie and that chemistry together as well.
I imagine you got to be feeling pretty good about the last few weeks from the Terps too, by the way. Like whatever that little blip was against James Madison, they got that figured out pretty quickly.
Yeah, they're having a great year. Really excited for Big Ten tournament to start tomorrow for them, and just see what happens. This is the best time of year for lacrosse, and we're going to finish it up with World Championships afterwards. And I mean, if you're a lacrosse fan in the U.S., but particularly in Maryland, like what a great time to be here.
What else is going on with you? Obviously you coach. What else is going on in your world, Taylor?
So we are in the middle of playoffs for McDonough. Playoffs start tomorrow for our varsity program. I'm continuing with my Taylor Cummings lacrosse company, doing clinics and lessons locally and throughout the country. And was recently also aligned with Team 18 with Kyle Harrison. He's starting a girls' side to his organization. So lots of lacrosse, lots of opportunities, still playing, still coaching. Just busy all around, but loving every second.
Obviously, as being such a great player, and clearly you've had a lot of success as a coach at McDonough. We know that. But is it ever – a lot of times people talk about great players transitioning to coaches, and it's tough because you just find yourself saying, hey, I can do that. Why can't you do that? Do you ever have those moments as a coach where it's just frustrating because, that you could do something and not every player can do it the same way?
I think coaching has helped me. I think because I still play, it helps me with coaching, and I think coaching has helped me play. And I think as far as, whether I'm working with 6th graders or my McDonough team or, a random clinic somewhere, wherever it is, I think what's helped me is figuring out that, players absorb information differently. Some need to be shown, some need to be talked through it, some need to see it. And so because of that, I'm able to not be frustrated because I just have to try all these different techniques until something clicks. And I think that moment of seeing a kid get it and seeing them be really excited and proud of themselves for accomplishing, a split dodge or a shot or whatever it is, that's really exciting. And I think that's probably the most rewarding part about it is just that moment where it clicks.
That's cool. That's a really cool thing to hear about how you've kind of grown as a coach. It's a really neat thing. All right, this summer, the place to be is Towson University, and it's going to be an amazing, amazing event for the World Lacrosse Women's Championships. And as I mentioned, you can go get your tickets right now by going to womensworldlax2022.com. Taylor, what else can we plug for you? Social media, your business, anything. What can we get plugs in for?
I am on Instagram, Taylor Cummings _. Make sure you follow USA Women's WLAX as well. That'll have all information about World Championships, our upcoming training events. Anything that you want to see from this summer will probably be on one of those two.
So give it a follow there. And again, get your tickets, come out and support what's an incredible event for our region. And it's going to bring in a lot of folks from all over the world. It's going to be a huge, huge deal for our community. So please make sure you are supporting it. Taylor Cummings, was a joy it's always been a joy to watch you play this game. Can't wait to see you at Towson this summer. Looking forward to the event. Appreciate you taking the time for us this morning.
Thank you so much, and hope to see you there.
Absolutely. Taylor Cummings, one of the great players in the history of women's lacrosse, and getting ready for the World Championships this summer. Appreciate her taking a couple of minutes for us this morning here on GCR. All right, when we come back in, we're going to get a tidbit. We're going to get tubular. We will wind down before we turn things over to Weekend at Bookies. That's on the way. It's Glenn Clark Radio.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Luke Jackson profiles Orioles catcher Adley Rutschman, diving into where his passion for baseball and for catching comes from and how he uses that passion to elevate those around him in the Orioles organization. Also inside, Bo Smolka takes a look at how the Ravens' 2021 draft picks can make progress in year 2, and Glenn Clark offers a very unique tribute to former rival Mike Krzyzewski that all Maryland fans can appreciate. Press Box is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores, and you can always find the entire edition as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Answering Baltimore's calls for help, running in when others run away, working together toward one shared vision for a thriving city. That's your Baltimore Police. But the department needs more good people, people like you. Join a proud new generation of Baltimore Police and make an active difference in your community. Start with competitive wages and excellent benefits on day one. Join for good at bpdrecruit.org.
Sports betting has come to Maryland, and we're ready to help you win some money. Tune in for Simply the Bets with Glenn Clark and Paul Valley every Tuesday morning at 11:40. FanDuel Sportsbook GM Bruce Billick and VSiN's Aaron Oster join the guys every week to give you all of the info you need and even a few winners. So come win some money with us on Simply the Bets every Tuesday at 11:40 a.m. Brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. Listen at PressBoxOnline.com/radio. Watch at YouTube.com/PressBoxOnline.
Baseball is back, and so is the spring seasonal menu at Glory Days Grill. Start with the opener, flash-fried pork belly with our popular Korean No. 2 sauce, and take a bite out of the Crunch Burger, topped with home run sauce, white American cheese, and house-made chips. It also features irresistible options like a baseball-cut sirloin with blue cheese, grilled shrimp with garlic butter, and a strawberry salmon salad. And then there's the closer, the Cracker Jack Sundae with a waffle, ice cream, and Cracker Jack. This menu will be gone at your neighborhood Glory Days Grill. GloryDaysGrill.com to find out more. Great food, good sports.
We can't imagine why you'd want to, but you can watch GCR live. It's at Facebook.com/PressBoxSports and try to guess whether these guys are wearing any pants.
All right, back in here on GCR. Today's show is also brought to you by your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience, technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today. All right, getting ready for Weekend at Bookies here in a few minutes on GCR. Remind me what's DL Hall? You're very hot and bothered by what DL Hall's doing today at Bowie.
He's thrown.
Paul's getting all steamy. Like he's having hot flashes.
Thrown 2 innings, no hits, no walks, no runs, 4 strikeouts. His fastball sitting 98 to 99. He's touched 100 once, 21 pitches, 19 strikes. Again, they were talking about his command issues and whether he could consistently throw strikes, and he hasn't walked anybody yet.
It's great.
Ever. This year.
Well, I mean, it's not.
This
There's not a
year.
huge sample size for this year
It's
either.
2
Let's be
starts.
fair. And it's not
Two balls in 2 innings.
Paul, I like that. Don't get me wrong. I like that.
I'm not getting defensive. I'm just
I
exclaiming.
like that. And may that continue forever. May he never throw balls.
May he
the rest
become
of his
Kevin
life.
Gossman.
100. Well, oh my God, 2022 Kevin Gossman,
Yes.
or even 2021 Kevin Gossman. I take. No doubt. All of that sounds delicious, but small sample size, long way to go.
6 innings.
Let's not get. let ease up. Well, that's 6 innings at Bowie. He did it.
6 innings of. I'm agreeing with you. It's a small
Yes.
sample size. He's thrown 6 innings.
And 2 innings at Double-A.
Yes.
You just got to ease up a little bit. Long way to go.
I'm hot and bothered, man.
You are.
My heart
flush.
rate's up. I'm getting
are.
hot, but it's
Yeah.
also hot in the studio.
Yeah, it is baking hot
It's
in the
really
studio.
hot.
I put in a request for a new fan that will probably arrive just in time for you to go to Super Megacorp. We'll probably be arriving right on the same day.
I'm losing weight by the hour.
Dude, it is like I don't know. I said the other day, I'm like, I got a condition, so that's part of the problem. But like, there was a moment the other day when we had 3 of us in here where I felt like I was going to pass out. There will be a moment tomorrow where there are 5 of us here because my buddy Spiro Marica is coming in studio tomorrow. This ain't gonna work.
Who's sitting on the window ledge? Who's going to sit there?
What we might do is sort of like a Today Show thing where we have someone stand outside and
It'll
kind
be
of
just
wave
Cass
in
just
and
waving.
like with a poster and like, we were rooting for you, yay, Justin Timberlake, something like the TRL thing might be what
Spiro,
we do.
sign my shirt.
Something like that. We might look into that. Probably have Jordan do that, not Cass is the case. Probably the way we're going to go about it. All right, let's get a tidbit. Tidbit is brought to you today by Glory Days Grill, where the spring seasonal menu it's real and it's magnificent. It's got the opener, the flash fried pork belly with the Korean No. 2 sauce. Ooh, so good. It's got the baseball cut sirloin. It's got the strawberry salmon salad. It's even got the Cracker Jack sundae with a waffle, ice cream, and Cracker Jacks. It's all available right now. Get your order in by going to glorydaysgrill.com. Glory Days Grill. Great food, good sports.
All right, so the other night, Dusty Baker won his 2,000th career game to go along with 1,745 losses and 1 tie, a .534 winning percentage. He is now one of 12 managers with 2,000 wins and the first black manager to accomplish the feat. And while the other 11 managers to win at least that many games are all in the Hall of Fame, they have also all won at least 1 World Series, something Dusty Baker cannot say despite 8 first-place finishes, 11 90-win seasons, and 11 postseason appearances. Of course, in Baltimore, we all know Earl Weaver and his Hall of Fame resume, 1,408 wins, .570 winning percentage, 4 World Series appearances, 1 World Series title, and not to mention 500-win seasons. Weaver is one of only 6 managers in Orioles history to manage at least 1 full season and finish his tenure with the club with more wins than losses.
Wait, say that one more time.
He is one of only 6 managers in Orioles history to manage at least 1 full season with the club and finish his tenure in Baltimore with more wins than losses.
Oh.
Who are the other 5?
Buck.
No, Buck was 15 games below 500.
Because the guy, oh man.
Yeah, that final season, that really stuck in my craw.
You know what?
669 and 684, second most wins.
No, I get it. Joe Altobelli.
Joe Altobelli was 212 and 167.
Frank Robinson.
No.
That actually.
Frank Robinson was a manager in
the 87. Yeah,
and
really
88,
screwed him.
He started 0-7 and got
that's a good
fired.
point. That's a good point. Yeah, I'm doing the math wrong. I did the math wrong on that. So, oh God. Okay, so then, oh geez, a lot of the guys that I'm thinking of probably don't fit the bill. All right, well, Davey Johnson.
Davey Johnson, 186 and 138.
And then was shown the door. Totally over it, though. Not bitter whatsoever. Don't get me wrong. So, well, how about Hank Bauer?
Hank Bauer,
66.
407 and 388. 318, excuse me. Third most wins in franchise history. You have 2 left. One I think you could get. The other one I don't expect, because I didn't know who this guy was.
Oh, good. Did you ever manage the Orioles, or did he manage the St. Louis Browns?
He managed the Orioles, I believe.
Yeah, you better check on that.
If he didn't, I'm gonna have to.
We just did a whole thing about this yesterday. It's the other one I could get. It's probably not Cal Senior. Cal Senior?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think so. Paul Richards is the only one I can remember from before 66.
No, and Billy Hitchcock did manage the he managed the St. Louis Browns. I apologize.
Ah, you son of a bitch! We just talked about this.
Oh no! He played for the St. Louis Browns. He managed the Orioles in 62 and 63.
I have no idea who that is. So you're telling that Billy Hitchcock? The only pre-66 manager I remember I know of was Paul Richards. So I would have never gotten Billy Hitchcock. So there's one other one.
Mm-hmm.
Johnny Oates.
Johnny Oates.
See, I get it. The funny thing about those Johnny Oates teams is because they didn't make the playoffs, you just don't associate them with success. But
they were good teams.
They were fine teams.
That 94 team was
off to
they were good.
They were off to a good start. There's no doubt. And you just forget that in that era of baseball, only one team
from each division. Yeah.
Exactly right. Made the playoffs, and there were only two divisions. So only the playoffs were just the LCS and the World Series. So
94, they went to 3 divisions, and they added the wild card, and then they had a strike.
Right, but we didn't.
He may have made the playoffs.
Might very well have.
Made the playoffs a lot with the Rangers.
Yeah, he did, 100%. It was regularly in the playoffs. All right, very good. Tubular, brought to you today by the Baltimore Police. Ooh, join a proud new generation of Baltimore Police and make an active difference in your community. Start with competitive wages and excellent benefits on day one. Join for good at bpdrecruit.org. Here's what's coming up, totally tubular-wise. Orioles and Twins wrap up the 4-game set. As I mentioned, Chris Archer, who you might, like me, may have forgotten was a Twin now, takes on Spencer Watkins on Masson tonight. MLB Network, Angels, Red Sox at 1:30, Mets, Phillies at 6:30, Cardinals, Giants at 9:30. YouTube, Nationals, Rockies at 3:10. Big Ten Network for the Big Ten tournament tonight. Johns Hopkins and Maryland, round 2. Hopkins just trying to avoid losing by 15 goals. That's at 5:30, followed by Rutgers, Ohio State. UMBC this afternoon against Binghamton in the America East tournament on AmericaEast.tv. Towson tonight against UMass at 7 in the CAA tournament on LAC Sportsnet. Go Mustang Sports.tv for Eastern and Stevenson at 7 in the MAC Commonwealth tournament. TBS tonight for Capitals Panthers, Game 2 at 7:30. It's also on NBC Sports Washington. Stars Flames, Game 2 at 10. TNT Penguins Rangers, Game 2. It was a thriller in the first one. That's at 7 tonight. Predators Avalanche, Game 2 at 9:30. Golf Channel from down just outside D.C. Round 1 of the PGA Wells Fargo Championship at 2 o'clock. WWE Network for NXT UK at 3. Access TV for Impact Wrestling at 8. Non-sports-wise, anything we should know about?
There's nothing. I almost sneezed. Chris Pratt is going to be on Jimmy Fallon tonight at 11:35. You have some new Netflix series, Blood Sisters, Clark, the Pentaverate, and Wild Babies, a Netflix documentary on Netflix.
Nothing.
There's nothing of note.
All right, go to glennclarkradio.com and you can see it there. No show for Stan the Fan tonight. He'll be back on Monday with Rick Dempsey. If you missed their powwow with Luke Jackson talking all about Adley Rutschman and the cover story, that's available right now, facebook.com/PressBoxSports. Thanks today to Taylor Cummings. Thanks also to Randy Edsall. We'll get that up in the greatest hits section of the
archives.
Tab at glennclarkradio.com. As I mentioned tomorrow, my buddy Spiro Marikas, play-by-play voice at Towson, he's going to be back in studio. We will discuss the announcement of this year's Rock and Roll Hall of Fame class, but we had decided to do this because we wanted to do a special thing for the Paul McCartney show where we brought out our top 10 Beatles songs that we love the most. Maybe we'll save that for another appearance and we'll just do the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame thing tomorrow. I'll talk to Spiro about that because the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame announcement was made yesterday. So that's tomorrow. He's joining us in studio. I know Jamie Chadwell, Coastal Carolina coach, is scheduled to join us. We'll find out more about Isaiah Likely. And are we doing Bowie, or is that happening?
He texted me last night and said he's going to know by today.
All right, so maybe we're going to Bowie. I don't know. Maybe we'll do that. Unfortunately, they had these day games these last 2 days that made it really tricky for us. All right, thanks to everybody at PressBox, all of our great sponsors and partners, including Glory Days Grill, Royal Farms, the Baltimore Police, Grade 8's Memorabilia, the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel, the Baltimore Orioles, your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com, Thanks to Paul. At Paul Valley III is how you follow him. At RexSpecs Ryan is how you follow Ryan. Thanks to him. And follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Glenn Clark Radio. Have a great Thursday evening. Go Birds. Go Maryland or Hopkins if you're a Hopkins fan. Towson and UMBC. Duke sucks. Ohio State sucks too. If you're with us on video, give us a minute. We'll be back. If you're with us on audio, do nothing.